Let's start learning grammar. In this video, we will understand what is an adjective clause, how to identify an adjective clause in a sentence, types of adjective clauses, and we will take few examples of adjective clauses for better understanding. Now, what is an adjective clause? When we look at the definition, it says an adjective clause, also called a relative clause, is a multi-word adjective that includes a subject and a verb. It is a dependent clause that modifies a noun or a pronoun. Now, let us understand what does it mean. We already know a clause, which means a group of words which has a subject and a verb. And what is adjective? Adjective means describing words. So, an adjective clause is such a group of words which has a subject and a verb and which acts like an adjective, or you can say which describes our noun or pronoun, that is, which gives us extra information about noun or pronoun. Now, why it is called a relative clause? Now, relative means relation. As this group of words which is in relation with a noun or pronoun with the help of words like who, whom, whose, that, which, when, where, and why, it is called a relative clause. Let us try to understand this with an example. The rat that John saw yesterday was in the kitchen earlier. Now, in this sentence, do we have a subject and a verb combination? Yes, we have a subject John and we have a verb saw, and that is why it is a clause. Now, this particular group of word has a relative pronoun, and this group of word is giving us information about the noun rat, and that is why this group of word will be considered as an adjective clause, because this group of word is describing this noun rat. I hope you have understood the definition of adjective clause. Now let us try to understand how to identify an adjective clause in a sentence. So first of all, we need to check whether it contains a subject and a verb or not, because we need to identify a clause. So it should have a subject and a verb. Second, it will begin with a relative pronoun like who, whom, whose, that, or which, or a relative adverb when, where, or why. And thirdly, the most important is it will function as an adjective. Means it will answer the questions like what kind, how many, or which one. Now, if we look at the example number 1, the place where the animals gather to drink is near. So, about which place we are talking? We are talking about that place where the animals gather to drink. Now, this group of word is giving us information about the place, noun, and that is why it is adjective clause. And does it fulfill all the requirements of an adjective clause? Yes, it has a subject, animals, and it has a verb, gather, and it has a relative adverb, where, and most of all, it is giving us an information about the place. Let us understand this with the help of another example. The tramp who claims to have a limp sprinted after the bus. Now, tramp means beggar. Now, here, about which tramp we are talking? We are basically talking about that tramp who claims to have a limp. Now, in this clause, do we have a subject and a verb? Yes, this is our subject and this is our verb. So, this group of word is giving us information about the noun tramp, or you can say this group of word is describing this tramp, and that is why it is adjective clause. Now, let us talk about types of adjective clauses. So, basically, we have two types of adjective clauses. One is restrictive clause and the another one is non-restrictive clause. As the name suggests, restrictive clause is that clause which limits or restricts the noun or pronoun it modifies. Now, look at the first example. The man who lives next door won the lottery. Now, this group of word which is playing the role of an adjective clause because it is describing the noun man, and that is why it is an adjective clause. Now, why it is restrictive clause? Because this group of word is restricting our noun man, and we cannot remove this group of words. Let us try to remove this clause from here. So what will come out? The man won the lottery. Now here the meaning of this sentence will change and we won't be able to understand about which man we are talking. So this clause plays very important role in this sentence as it is restricting the noun man. Similarly, when we look at the non-restrictive clause, Tim Smith, who lives next door, won the lottery. Now, why this clause has been called non-restrictive? Because we can easily remove this clause from here. And when we are going to remove this clause from this sentence, it will not affect the meaning of this sentence. Tim Smith won the lottery. So, we have an idea now that who lives next door is just an additional information about Tim Smith. So what is the difference between a restrictive and a non-restrictive clause? We cannot remove a restrictive clause from the sentence because it will change the overall meaning of the sentence. But we can easily remove a non-restrictive clause because it will not affect the meaning of the sentence. I hope now you have understood the difference between restrictive and non-restrictive clause. Let us take few examples of adjective clauses for better understanding. The time when fish are easiest to catch is at dawn. Now here, do we have a subject and verb combination? Yes, this is our subject and this is our verb. Do we have any relative pronoun or relative adverb here? Yes, we have a relative adverb here. And the most important thing is we need to check whether this group of word is describing any noun or pronoun. Yes, this group of word is describing the time, and that is why it is an adjective clause. And is it a restrictive clause or a non-restrictive clause? So how we can check that? We can simply check it by removing it from the sentence. If we are going to remove it from the sentence, what will come out? The time is at dawn. So we won't be able to understand about which time we are talking. So that is why it is restrictive clause. Similarly, the dog that performs the most tricks will win the prize. Now here we have a subject that we have a verb performs, and as this group of word is describing the dog means a noun, that is why it is an adjective clause. Now is it restrictive or non-restrictive? Same trick you have to apply here. Try to remove it from here. What will come out? The dog will win the prize. So here we won't be able to understand about which dog we are talking or which dog will win the prize. So this phrase is important here. This phrase is restricting this noun, and that is why it is restrictive clause. People who are rude are difficult to be around. Here we have a subject, who, and a verb, and that is why this group of word is clause, and this group of word is describing about people. Now, is it restrictive or non-restrictive clause? So, if we are going to remove it, what comes out? People are difficult to be around. Again, the meaning of the sentence will change because it limits our noun people. The sentence is not about all people but about a limited group of people, one who are rude. And if this adjective clause were removed, the meaning of this sentence would be very different. And that is why it is restrictive clause. My brother, who is sometimes rude to guests, lives down the street. Now again, we have a group of words. Again, we need to check three traits of adjective clause. First of all, do we have a subject and verb combination? Yes, we have a subject and we have a verb. Now, is it describing something? Yes, this group of word is describing my brother. Now, is it restrictive or non-restrictive? My brother lives down the street. If we will remove this clause from here, it will not change the meaning of the sentence. And that is why this is a non-restrictive clause. I hope you have understood what are adjective clauses and what are restrictive and non-restrictive adjective clauses. Now, at the end of this video, I would like to give you a very important tip. Now, most of the children, they get confused whether we need to put a comma after our subject or not. So here, what you need to do is you need to check whether your clause is restrictive or non-restrictive. If your clause is restrictive, then don't use commas. And if your clause is non-restrictive, use commas. As you can see in the example, this is non-restrictive clause and that is why we have used comma. This is restrictive clause, so we do not use comma here. So I hope you have understood adjective clauses in detail. Keep learning.